Well, I'm just sitting here reading some of my messages that I've overlooked. I want to tell you in the first place, this is what I want you to know. Every few days, I have to go down the list of every video to see if I've checked off every message showing that I've read it. You know how many videos I've got now? I think I've got 126 of them. That means it takes me a long time to pick up on the messages I haven't read. So if I'm a few days behind and I haven't checked your name, don't worry about it. I'll get to it. It's just going to take a while. So, having said that, well, I was getting ready to just pop on a little message, just start talking. Wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. But about that time, my hearing aid battery went out, telling me to change my hearing aid. You know how long these things last? About 4 days. Let me show you what they look like. These little bitty things, can you see them? Look there. It takes 2 of them every 4 days, and they're not cheap. They're not cheap. So I've decided I'll keep all the little ones I've already used. See, there's one. I got 2 of them here, just changed. Now, if you can come up with a good idea of how to use used, dead hearing aid batteries, something that we can make money off of, I'll split the money with you. So you be thinking about that. If you're bored and got nothing else to do, start thinking of some ideas for these little bitty hearing aid batteries. They don't work anymore, and there's nothing you can do with them. So I said there's got to be a craft project that's asking for all of these little things I've been saving. Don't you wish you'd been the one that invented these things? You'd already be rich. So much for my hearing aid batteries. And all of you that are wearing hearing aids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They've got all different kinds, different sizes, and every 2 weeks you gotta go buy more hearing aid batteries. Okay, I was just thinking, don't know what made me think about my sister. She was 9 years older than I, and a lot of people would even mistake us for twins. Now, I don't know how you could say somebody looked like twins when they're 9 years apart, but they did, and a lot of people thought I was her and thought she was me, and well, that can get a little bit confusing after a while, and you're trying to explain, no, I'm not her, and they look at you real weird like you're trying to lie to them. And I say, then you have to say, I'm her sister. Yeah, some of you are probably familiar with that. You've probably gone through it yourself. I got to thinking about when she got married. She was 23 years old. Now, let me tell you, she was already an old maid. Yeah, by the standard then, 23 years old. Oh, my gosh. But I'll tell you this, she was marrying the handsomest young man I've ever seen. He was movie star handsome. Just gotten home from the war and looking for a job, of course, and trying to make ends meet when they met. Now, by this time, We had been living in Tennessee, near Oak Ridge, where all the action was taking place for the war. And the war ended. We came back home. She came back home with us, and she would go to Tennessee to visit friends. And I had another sister who lived there, and she would stay with her and spend the weekend and come back home, go to work on Monday morning. So anyway, she met this young man, and she brought him home one weekend to meet the family. Now, at the time, he hadn't had a chance to find a decent job, and he was driving a taxi cab, small town taxi cab. People used taxis a lot back then. So my oldest sister pulls him aside, and she said, "Do you plan on driving a taxi for the rest of your life?" What would you have done if she'd said that to you? If he'd been smart, he'd have opened that door and run for his life. Because she was serious. She meant serious business. Is that all you're going to do, is drive a taxi cab? Well, he went on to better things. But anyway, I remember the day of my sister's wedding. It was being held in Tennessee at the First Baptist Church that we had attended for 2 years. And she's a pretty girl. We looked alike. But she's about 2 inches shorter than I was. So anyway, it was just a simple little wedding. She was wearing a navy blue, pretty stylish dress, came below the knee, and all the dress styles in those days were just beautiful. And my other sister wore a dusty rose. They were sort of crepe type dresses, solid, and hers was dusty rose, and she's every bit as pretty as the first sister. So when the family got in the car ready to go across Jellicoe Mountain, now back then it was 2-lane highway. And when I say 2-lane highway, I'm talking about round the mountain. I mean, you zigzagged, you'd see at the tail of your car as you went around those curves. I had motion sickness. All my life I've had motion sickness. So I knew there was no doubt about it. I would get sick. Now you could eat the soda crackers. You could, what was it you're supposed to do with the brown paper poke? I think you're supposed to shove a little piece of brown paper poke down inside your little neckline. Now, you know that's an old-fashioned belief that that piece of paper is going to keep you from getting sick. Well, it didn't. By the time we got to the church, I was still trying to get over looking green in the face. I don't remember, I was about 15 years old, I guess. And when the ceremony started, they walked down the aisle and they were standing there, and I was feeling so horrible that I was at the end of the pew, hanging my head over the arm of the pew, trying to get over my sickness. My stomach was just rolling. And I could see down the aisle. I could see my sister's legs. She had on pretty high heel shoes. And her legs were going. And I thought, she's going to fall. She's going to faint. She's going to fall flat on the floor. Thought any minute her legs were going to fold up and she's going to hit the floor. There I laid with my head on the arm of that pew. She got through the ceremony okay. I don't know if they had a honeymoon or not. I kind of doubt it. Those were poor days. She didn't have a lot of money. But anyway, I don't know why I wanted to tell the story about her wedding, because it wasn't one of those fabulous things that you want to flaunt. But that was when Daddy had the big Commodore Hudson, the turquoise Hudson. Now let me tell you, that was a fancy car. It was big, it was long, and the hardest thing to get in and out of in those stovepipe skirts you ever saw. My sisters and I would fuss every time we had to get in the car, because we had to pull our skirts up above our knees just to get over the door facing. But anyway, we had the big car in town, and Daddy's driving back home, back around those hairpin curves. And I don't remember exactly what happened, because I was in the back seat trying to keep from throwing up, and he hit the bank. Now you got a hillside over here, and over here you got a cliff that drops off, goes down into usually a river gorge. So fortunately, Daddy's car went this way, and he hit the bank. Well, it didn't do too much damage. That wasn't too bad. But we made it home okay. Now, that's the only wedding I went to in my family, because one or two of them just went to the courthouse and got the justice of the peace. And another of my sisters, now, one of my sisters was just a young teenager when she got married. She married her soldier boyfriend, who was stationed in New Jersey at the time. And this teenager got on a train. She hadn't been out of the small town. She'd never been on a train, never been on a bus. And they got married. Well, he's stationed in New Jersey, and she gets on a train and head for New Jersey. Now, there was a lot of train travel back in those days because of the war, and that's the only way people had for traveling. Not too many people own cars. If you can imagine a teenager in a small town, never been anywhere in her life, getting on a train and heading for New Jersey by herself. I never quite figured that one out, because I figured she was too chicken to get on the train in the first place. When she got to New Jersey, got off the train, oh, there were soldiers everywhere, and there were people at the station meeting these soldiers, and her new husband was supposed to be there to meet her, and she looks around. There's nobody. She doesn't know anybody. She doesn't know who to ask. He's not there. Oh, what was she going to do? She was scared out of her wits. So I think one or two older people talked to her and kind of convinced her she'd be okay. So she tried calling him, and finally he showed up about 30 minutes later. He'd gotten tied up some way, and he couldn't get to the station. So anyway, that was one of the marriages. Now, this teenage girl, her husband ends up going to college, and he's in college in Tennessee, and my sister was telephone operator. You know, that was the days where you plugged in the phone calls, and you could listen in to the conversations. Oh, a lot of interesting conversation took place back then. So she could call my mother and talk to her from the telephone company. It didn't cost her anything if she did that. She could also plug in and get her husband at home, and they would have a three-way conversation. Well, this was the day that my other sister had decided to get married, just graduating from high school. She had everything in her future to look forward to because she could sing. Oh, could she sing? She was going to go to college. She was going to have a major in music. She was going to be famous. Yeah, we were going to make her famous. But she decided to get married instead. Well, in our family, nobody had been to college. This was the first chance she could get a scholarship. And she turned it down. Well, the sister at the telephone company, she's talking to my mother, she's talking to her husband, and she's getting so upset because the music girl has decided she's not going to go to college. She's getting married that day. My sister said to my mother, lock her in the closet. Put her in the closet, lock her in there. Don't you let her out of the house. Now, this was a teenage bride telling another sister not to get married. You can imagine how much influence she had. And I can remember standing back, listening to my mother talking to this sister and trying to say, she won't listen to me. I can't knock any sense into her head. She's determined to get married. And she did. She did. She gave up the idea of a music career. The only one in the family that ever had the chance to have a real career. And she gave it up for marriage. I still want to smack her right in the mouth. You know, that's the way sisters are. So much for marriage. You don't want to hear about mine yet. Mine will take 2 or 3 days to tell, because there's more to it than just the wedding. There's the divorce. Yeah. The children, and then the divorce. And the life after divorce. Oh, you're going to love it. You can just look forward to it. So you're going to have to keep watching me on YouTube, because you never know when I'm going to come up with the big story. That's all I've got to tell you today. Look at my hair. I didn't even comb it when I sat down here. Don't have on any earrings. And I'm getting, see this little spot right here? I lost a rhinestone. I'm thinking I might find some bright red, shiny nail polish and just put a little dot right there, and nobody will notice. I won't have to buy another pair of glasses. So, I need to get busy. I'm still putting away Fostoria. I'm looking at several pieces in front of me. Where can I put those? I have filled these china cabinets so full, but I didn't want to put the Fostoria in boxes in the basement. I wanted them handy whenever I wanted to use them. I wanted to know where they were, because anytime I box something up and put it away, I never remember where I put it. So I prefer to have things sitting around where I can just walk up, pick it up, and set it on the table. Now, once I get my dining table cleared, it's not cleared yet. I'm still looking for some hideaway places that'll be easy to get to. And when I get the table cleared, I'm going to do a tablescape. I hope I can get to that before Thanksgiving. You know how some things just take a little more time. I hope you enjoy this little chit-chat. Doesn't amount to much. As they say, Pat likes to talk. So if you like to listen, we'll make a good pair. Good to be with you again today, and don't forget, I've got a lot of searching to do to read all of your messages, because they don't come in a certain order where I can just pick it up immediately. I have to look for them. And I don't mind that as long as I know they're there. That's what matters. I want the messages to be there. And I've heard from some interesting people. I just got a message from a lady who lives in the same town I was in Tennessee. I'm curious to know if maybe we know each other. In a very small town, it's very possible. So I might hear from her again. I hope I do. And I love hearing from you people in other countries. It's so exciting when I see England and Ireland and Australia and, Japan, New Zealand. It's like I'm getting to travel to the places I've always dreamed of. And you people are putting me there. You're letting me see a little bit of where you live. And I know I would love every place that you mention. And I wish I was able to come by, I won't say by train, but I will say by plane. And I'd even like to get on one of those cruise ships and just sail across the Atlantic Ocean and meet you at the dock. Wouldn't that be fun? Thanks for watching me today, and let me know what you think about my chit-chats when they don't cover any good subjects, just small talk. I'll be with you again soon, so watch for me and get all of your friends to subscribe. I'm still working on the monetizing, and I'm making money. I'm just tickled pink. I'm making money, and Jan's already planning a trip for the two of us. Don't you like that? My daughter wants to take a trip with her mother and nobody else. Pretty lucky mother, don't you think? See you soon.